had a private practice in care management. We work primarily with older people and some folks that are younger who have some type of a disability. The practice really specializes in one-on-one touch with an older person and the family. I think the most important thing that we're able to do is we can touch people's lives as they age, and we can help families figure out what next steps should be. And I'm sure I'll have an opportunity to talk about some of the next steps and options and choices for older people as we go along.
Hi everyone, Kim Fetro. I'm a trust and estates lawyer. Hector Tangon, Terrell, and Sager. I've been practicing for the last 27 years, only in trust and estates law. For the past 25 years, I've been with my current firm, which is a boutique trust and estates firm. So there are now, I believe, 19 of us only doing trust and estates law. So we're very specialized now. So I don't do personal injury litigation or real estate work. I just work with families on their estate planning. Your question was a good one. Sort of what is the most rewarding part of what we do? I really, really love to see, it's almost a feeling of relief when I'm done with a family where they feel like they understand what's happening, they have a plan in place, and they don't have to think about it anymore for a while at least. And in particular, when I work with families with special needs family members, that in particular seems to be an area where families really feel the most relief when they're through the process. So.
Hi, my name is Michelle Smith. Like the Shreds, I followed a parent into the wealth management business, but it was my mom. And in the 1970s, she was a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch as a result of a second divorce, when she realized that she was really tired of being broke and not being in control of her money, and wanted to create a future for my brother and I, and needed to go somewhere where there was nobody saying you can't make this amount of money. And so she went into financial services, and I joined her when I left college, and I've been doing this now for 29 years. 7 years ago, I went independent in New York City and started my own firm, and nobody would give me money, and everybody told me I'm crazy, and 7 years later, here I am. And 95% of my clients are women who are divorced, and I say all the time, and this isn't a depressing statement, it's a real one, all marriages end. They either end in divorce or death. And when it is not your choice, is not the best time to be confident and clear about your money. And so my whole mission in life is to bring women to a place of confidence and clarity and trust in themselves that they can control. And I am on an absolute mission to have every woman in this world not start a question to a financial person with, I know this is stupid, but.
So thank you all for setting the stage for us, and I would like to set the stage as well, just to tap on what Michelle just said. Maybe just kind of talk about some observations that we've had in our firm that I think are important, and I'd like to, ask this panel for feedback and discussion of, and then some questions for the panel. But before we do that, I just want to say also, the intention of today is really to help you to get what you came here for. So really, we're hoping that people will feel free to raise their hand and interrupt and ask questions. I think it would be much more valuable for you if your questions get answered. So if we're talking or there's a topic that you're feeling like isn't being hit on, please, we hope to make this really interactive. Okay? So a couple of the confluence of factors that we've observed that I think are important for women, and maybe setting the stage for it. We've observed that in most couples, like it or not, there's often a division of labor, and there are tasks that a couple have to take advantage of or to do in life that often it's like, well, you take this one and I'll take that one. And one of those tasks we call the family CFO. And whether we like it or not, and speaking to what Michelle said, very often that family CFO position does fall more on the husband's shoulders and maybe less on the wife's shoulders. Not always true, but that's often true. And combine that with the fact that, as Michelle said, all marriages do eventually end. Particularly as people get older, longevity is on the rise in this country, but female longevity is more on the rise than male longevity is. So there's statistics about the odds are most women will outlive their husband, and there's also a rise in later life divorce as well. So, we're here to talk about the preparation for that happening for anyone in the room. Another element to that I think is perhaps sensitive and delicate, and maybe one that Kim can talk to, is the family CFO, maybe as the couple is aging, dementia is also on the rise among older people and as they age. And so what happens if and when the family CFO starts showing signs that they're incapable of managing that job? One of the realities is that there can be a sense of, I am man, I handle money, smarter than anybody. It can be tied into ego, and being smart with money can be an ego thing, it can be an alpha male thing. And so what happens when maybe there are signs that the male CFO is no longer capable of handling that job. From a family perspective, and one of the reasons I wanted to ask Joyce to be here, not always true also, but probably more often true, that it falls on, we talk about the oldest daughter is the one who's taking care of the aging parents. So for those in the room who do have aging parents, it may be true that becomes a woman's job more so than the son's job. And so how do we think about caring for aging parents and decisions about where are they going to live if and when they need to go into assisted living? How do we know when it's time? Or if there are people in the room themselves who are getting a little bit older, how do we know when it's time for us to think about that? And then lastly, because of the fact that we've read a lot about it, because of the fact that maybe that caregiving burden falls more on women than it does on men, and we've definitely seen this in our practice. When we sit down with a couple and we start talking about retirement, we ask him, what's your vision of retirement? It's typically, how much golf can I play? Where are we going to live in Florida? How many nights a week are we going to go out to dinner? What's the budget for all that? And so he's thinking more about enjoying retirement. And very often, she's thinking more about, when is it going to be time for us to move into assisted living? How are we going to pay for long-term health care? We found that, generally speaking, women are more attuned to the issues of caring for themselves and caring for their family as they age, maybe than men are. So anyway, those are kind of a confluence of issues that I'm hoping to kind of tease out with the panel. And so, Michelle, maybe we can start with you and talk about kind of everything I just said. Maybe talk about how the financial services industry traditionally has catered more to men, and how you've experienced that, and what are some of the emotional and psychological things that women should be thinking about to prepare themselves?
It's interesting that all of a sudden we're really popular. And we're super popular with financial services right now. And you cannot open a newspaper or a magazine where now women are being marketed to as a niche. Okay, we're not a niche. Okay? There's 166 million women in this country. Right now, 51% of the women, 51% of the population controls $14 trillion. Women right now control $14 trillion. Next year, by the end of 2020, That's going up to 24. By 2028, 75% of the global population, 75% of all discretionary spending is going to fall under the hands of women, right? So to me, there's really, women also, we don't all react the same. Just because we're this like lumped in gender and there's this myth that women are risk averse, we're not risk averse, we're risk aware. We have spent our lives thinking about and planning and scaffolding the family ourselves for what are the risks out there. And that's identical, and that should be the stance that you take when you're taking control of your money or starting to think about investing, because most people, women are part of the people, really just don't want to lose their lifestyle. You don't want to run out of money. And I've never met one client, male or female, that's ever walked into my office and said, I'd really like you to help me cut my lifestyle in half. Right? That's not what we want. That's not what we're doing here. We're wanting to preserve for the rest of our lives a pot of money where we know we're safe, where we know we can take care of ourselves, take care of our family, but that takes a level of clarity and understanding. And the biggest risk I see to this is not feeling confident enough. If you're in a marriage and you don't feel like you're allowed to know, you gotta start to slowly change that. You can't just sign things blankly. Not all men are trying to get away with something. They really are considering this their domain. And I had this revelation a couple of years ago, and one of my girlfriends said to me, okay, well, let me ask you a question. You do every holiday. I've been coming to your house for holidays for 2 decades. How would you feel if your husband, I'm divorced, but if your husband walked in and said, all of a sudden, I want to control the menu, how holidays are done, how the table is done. Overnight, he swoops in and wants to take that out of your control. And I went, wow, I kind of don't like the feeling of that. But it wasn't that I wouldn't be willing to share some of the responsibility. It's more how it was done and how fast it was done. So there's a way to start getting yourself financially empowered. I don't like using the word literate because it implies we're illiterate with money. We're not. It's just nobody's made it interesting for women. Nobody's tied money to life issues. We want our problems solved. There's big problems we have as women, and if we're going to end up single or choose to be single, we want our problems solved, and we want everything that has to do with a dollar sign tied to how we're going to solve our problems. So what are the 2 things that scare you the most about money in your future? That's a great start to plot a plan to how you're going to get over that. And what are the 2 things in your life right now that you need solved that have to do with money? It's a really good starting point to say, wow, I need a plan to get from here to clarity and confidence to be in control of it.
So Kim, maybe talk about your perspective on, first of all, when you meet with client couples, do you notice a difference in the things that maybe the woman might be concerned with as opposed to the man? And then maybe also talk a little bit about the nightmare kind of scenario that we all talk about is like he drops dead and there's just no preparation in terms of estate documentation. And maybe even to tie on to that also, maybe he doesn't drop dead, but he's goes into a coma or there's some sort of disability. What preparation can people put in place?
I want to reiterate something Michelle said, and it's the very first thing on my cheat sheet of notes, which is participate and educate yourself. Be informed, because that's where you need to start. Because you're never going to be able to get to the place you need to be if you don't inform yourself, or you advocate and you don't participate. And I like your idea of actually sort of starting slowly, starting to say, look, I'm interested in this. This is something that's going to affect me. It's going to affect our children. So I like the fact that you're actually providing some strategies, because it's easy to say participate. It's easy to say inform yourself, but how do you do that? Start slowly. Also, please get to know your advisors. Form your own relationship with your advisors. Help to select them if you don't have them already. Know your accountant, know your lawyer, know your financial advisors. It's extremely important that they understand that you are part of the team that's making the decisions as you're going through your life. So by participating, by educating yourself, you then start to become part of the decision-making process. And in order to make good decisions, you need to know what the consequences of those decisions are. And if you're not at the meeting with me, you're never going to understand what the consequences of the decisions are that your husband has told you he's made for you. Okay? So what do you need to know? You need to know what your assets are, where they are, their value, how they're titled, and how they're going to pass if one of you dies. And so that's where I would start, is participating and educating yourself. And you all have such a great, the internet, Google, you can find out a whole lot of information that women of a prior generation could not easily find out. So that's my big advice.
Thank you. So Joyce, maybe as a first question.
Can I just piggyback?
Yes, please do.
I guess what I wanted to say about money, the issue of money gets raised all the time in my work because money drives choices. The kinds of options that they have as they get sick, whether they can stay in their home, whether they can afford to move, and what kind of community they can afford to move into. But I think while it's extremely important to get your house in order in terms of finances, the rubber seems to hit the road for some older people when it's time to start spending that money. And this can develop into all kinds of conflict between partners. One wants help to come in, another one doesn't want to. Oftentimes parents are very committed to making sure that they leave their kids money. And in the meantime, the roof is leaking, they have no help, and they won't pay to have somebody deliver groceries, So this is the kind of tension that we run into all the time. And I also wanted to talk about, in terms of legal stuff, people often call us in the middle of a crisis, and at that point, they're realizing, wait a minute, I live in Milwaukee, my parent lives here. Am I the power of attorney? Do I have a copy of the document? Did they ever get that document signed and notarized? These kinds of planning documents, advance directives, lay out what you want, should you become dramatically impaired, a durable power of attorney. These kinds of things we recommend to people to do while they're helping. Because, especially for older people with cognitive issues, if they wait too long, they're really not able to legally sign these documents. They don't have capacity to sign these documents. And then it throws the family into the whole expensive, painful turmoil of seeking guardianship for people.
Kim can speak to this in a minute, but one of the things that we constantly are reinforcing with clients, and I'm sure Kim would second this, is the scenario where the estate documents are all drawn up, and the attorney has done a great job of drafting the estate plan, and then the documents don't get signed because we can't agree on who's going to be. We have families where the kids are over past 18, the couple never agreed on who the guardian should be for their kids, and so they never sign their estate documents. They think they're signed, but they're not, and then all of a sudden someone gets incapacitated and there's no power of attorney in place. So again, I'm sure we can ask Kim to touch on that some more. But Joyce, before we leave you, if you could talk about what your engagements look like, particularly from the perspective of women, do you find that if you're dealing with families, is it more a daughter who's kind of leading the effort and that's who you're interacting with?
Well, I think over the years, the way people come to us has really changed, because when I started the practice, everybody's called in the middle of a crisis. Somebody had broken a hip, what are they going to do? Where are they going to go? I think people generally, certainly the baby boomers, are much more educated in what's out there, because a lot of us have place their parents in these facilities. We've been in them a lot sometimes. And they know what's out there, and many times they know exactly what they don't want. So I think, again, conversation is important between couples and families. I can't say unilaterally that it's always the woman on the front lines making these arrangements, but probably at least 80% of the time it is, because women tend to notice decline. I'm part of a national association, so we have people like me all over the country, and very often adult children fly in from other parts of the country. They've been talking to their mom. They think their mom is good on the phone. She is good on the phone. People rise to the occasion of a telephone call. And she gets here and nobody's taking medicine and she hasn't showered in 5 days and nobody's changing clothes. So, being aware that you don't have to wait for that you can call somebody anywhere in the country almost, have them do an assessment of your parent, see what's going on. You really need to lay eyes on people to know what's happening in the home. You need to open their fridge. You need to kind of listen to them as they talk about their day to figure out, wait a minute, something doesn't add up. Phone calls really aren't the way to handle it.
So Kim, maybe I'll throw this out to you, but the whole panel can add any experience with it. I personally see more and more incidents of the thing I was referencing a minute ago, which was the family CFO is maybe starting to show signs that job is too much. And that's can be a really, really delicate and difficult. If anyone in the panel could share actual experience with that kind of thing, and how do you deal with a situation like that?
Well, that's where advanced planning, that you will hear a theme throughout. You plan for your own incapacity so that you stay in control. And I think that's for the people who are control freaks. We need to let them know that if they do think about this, they don't want to think about it, but if they think about it now, they are going to control the process. They're going to control how things happen when they do begin to decline. There are no easy answers. Let's assume that we even have all the documents in place, right? So you've done your advanced planning. You have a financial power of attorney that says if I become incapacitated, my spouse is my agent and can speak on my behalf, can sign all papers, can make all medical decisions for me. The harder case you say is, what if the person won't acknowledge their own incapacity? That's where I think the team comes in. And so to the extent that you have talked about these things, that you have financial advisors, you have accountants, you have lawyers who worked with you for all those years, as a team, you can kind of get a meeting together and say, here's what needs to happen and here's why.
It's like an intervention, maybe.
Yes, exactly.
One thing I'll also tack on to that is the other unfortunately very common scenario we see, and I'm sure you probably do as well, especially with the baby boom generation, right? So a lot of men in that generation are, I grew up with nothing, and these kids are going to get whatever they're going to get, and we don't need to do any estate planning. That's all. Nope, they're going to be taken care of, great. And what they don't necessarily take into account is fine. Estate planning isn't necessarily just about saving taxes. They may predecease their wife, and all of a sudden now she's left picking up the pieces, not just from an estate tax standpoint, but from a control standpoint.
Right. I would say you will hear this over and over again from that generation. I've taken care of it. I've taken care of it. Until you see those documents, until you know personally, the I've taken care of it generally means it's not been taken care of. I can tell you that much. And it will become your problem. That's the sad part of it. And again, if the planning is not done, and I think we can appeal to, again, the control freak, right, is that if you want your intentions and your desires for what happens in the future to continue, beyond your incapacity and your death, then you actually have to put the structure in place now to do it, because somebody's going to do it, and they may not do it the way you want them to do it, or there may be litigation over how it should be done, in which case everything that that person has worked for his or her whole life, could be sort of dissipated in legal